And welcome to another episode of Friday Night Knits. I'm your host, Rachel. I am a knitter, a crocheter, a wife, a teacher, and occasionally I will share details about my current teaching experience as well as what's happening personally. But I frequently talk about my current projects and my many uh, interested patterns that I'm hoping to cast on, but never quite sure if I'm going to do so. But with all that said, I want to start off by saying I have no finished objects. I have been diligently knitting away on various garments. Whatever I gravitate towards is what I put on my hand or my needles, etc. And this is no different. So if you are looking to hear about, ooh, what finished objects does she have today? I got none for you, child. Not a single one, but I got mini whips. I like to whip it. And so whip it good. And so, since I have all these different whips on my needles, I figured I should do a little progress check and talk about some future plans and one recent yarn acquisition. My other acquisitions I will talk about in my next episode. But definitely, yeah, I'm going to stop because I will start knitting. I will start rambling, and I don't want to do that. What I do want to do is take my knitting journal and refer to my notes so that way I can be on point and stay focused. Stay focused. So, first whip I'm going to share that is so close to being done. Is my test knit for Veronika Lindberg. Veronika Lindberg, who's also Kikova. I think how I'm saying Kikova. I never say it right, and I don't know why I try because I can never get the word out right. But it's a cute little channel on YouTube where she has one of the most joyful personalities I've ever watched. She does a really great job of just like celebrating her knitting career and just bringing you along in that journey where you can't help but get caught up, like feel like you just made a little friend online when you really did. And I don't know, she's very inspiring. And because I love watching her reels as well as her episodes, and I've purchased not one but two of her books and had the pleasure of testing for her on several patterns, I decided to say yes to this most recent test knit, which is called Late to Checkout. This is a stockinette drop shoulder sweater that, as you can see, I'm so close. It's so close to being finished. This is what I'm hoping to wear in replacement of my mini sweatshirts. As you can see, I'm back in my sweatshirts, but I am wearing a pair of my socks, and I'll show you which one. So there's that. I'm wearing a pair of socks that I made with my own hands. But with this beautiful sweater, I won't go into too much detail about because I talked about it in my previous video, but I am using Plymouth yarn. I am grabbing, nope, that's not it. Let me see if I can find it. I'm just going to go, here's the project bag. And in the project bag, why would there be the yarn tag in here? Because the yarn tag is not around. But this is Plymouth yarn. It's worsted weight. It's a super wash. It's about over 200 yards of yarn, less than 300, but definitely over 200. It's definitely a worsted weight yarn, so highly recommend if you are looking for a true worsted weight yarn. This is it. And the quality of it is really great. I haven't had any knots. I haven't had any severe tangles. It caked up really well. All in all, it's been a very positive knitting experience. This is like a taupe color. It's like a taupe beige, more closer to taupe than anything. I'm going to hold it up next to not the actual tag, but you see like it's not quite brown, but not quite beige. This is all I have left of the yarn, and I think I could finish it because I only have to do 3 inches of the hem. And let's be real, I never do the amount that the pattern calls for because I get real lazy. So hopefully I will, but it's not looking too good. Sweater, the Wednesday sweater is really the only one I have made that I actually made it to the length, because like this should have been another inch and I didn't. But I'm actually glad I didn't because it ensured that I had enough yarn left over to actually do the body. And so the body is at the length that I was hoping for. I tried it on last night. It looks really good. The collar is not folded over, but I chose to do so because that's how I prefer to wear. I wanted to wear a crew neck type. And I did this splash of purple. I'm going to hold it closer to the camera. I did that because I thought it would look cute. And yeah, and I added the splash here at the bottom, and I added it at the cuffs of the sleeve. I just need to do the other sleeve because for whatever reason, I forgot to do it. Yeah. So, with that said, I absolutely love this particular sweater. Again, I talked about it before, but just really quick, it's called Late to Checkout. It is in test knit. Hopefully, it will be on sale sometime next month or early March. It is definitely a easy beginner friendly pattern. You're using what size needles? 5 millimeter needles, which is a US 8. For the body and the sleeves, and for the hem and the collar, you're using 3 millimeter, which is a US two. I'm gonna no, it's not two. Is it two? Ooh, child. US. Brr. Brr. That's what it is. It's a US brr. Um. Oh my gosh, I have one of these thing hickeys. Let's see if this will help me out. It's a US 2.5. Why? Okay, but it's a US 2.5, which is 3 millimeter, and so yeah, the it's very thin. I'm using my Forte Chagu Forte needles. I'm using the original ebony. The Kabaz ones are in the needles, and so far so good. They haven't been. I'm trying to be very careful with this. I probably will leave this stationary. I don't foresee myself stuffing this back into the bag because my goal is to finish it tonight, if not early tomorrow morning. So that way I can go ahead and let it wet block for the rest of the day. And then on Sunday, add it to the blocking mat. Because it's superwash, I probably won't let it make it wet block for the whole day because although this yarn has been sitting in my collection for a long period of time. So maybe I will. I don't know. I'll play it by ear. We'll see how impatient I feel. That will make the determination of how long. I have a few other garments that I need to wash. A few other sweaters I need to wash that have been sitting there. So I am going to be doing some sweater washing this weekend and praying that I don't felt anything, dye anything the wrong color, so forth and so forth. Overall, very happy with this knitting experience. Again, this is called Late to Checkout. This is by Veronika Lindberg. This is an all over stockinette pattern where you do two by two ribbing for both the collar, the hem, and the sleeve cuffs. It is definitely worked up very quickly. I started this particular object December 21st, and I will be finished with this by January 11th. And this is after putting it down for a full couple of days where I haven't touched it. Like today is the first time I've touched it in a while. So it's definitely perfect knit for this time of year, and I cannot wait to wear it. I can, like I said before, I see myself wearing it with one of my mini pairs of yoga pants around the house. So this was a great test knit to kind of cleanse my palette from all the other intricate projects I was doing so far this year. So nearly finished with that. Another nearly finished object is my socks, or are my socks. Yeah, are my socks. Look at me not speaking grammar. I went ahead and put both the socks on the same needle, so they are working together. I have started the foot because I finished the leg. As you can see, I finished the heel, and I did something different with the heels. So these socks are the basic number 3 socks in Summer Lee's summer project book. In her project book, she has about, let me tell you exactly, because this I want you to know, because I think you should go buy this book. If you are not someone who typically buys knitting books or that you're interested in sock knitting, this might be it. So she has she has 5 basic sock recipes that you can use in order to make a garment, or excuse me, a sock. And the sock recipe I'm using is number 3 for this one. Let me just bring it to you. So this is the sock I'm currently working on, basic sock number 3, and it has a folded cuff. You can see here. Now these are self-striping, so no, they're not like folded exactly in the same color. And I'm okay with that, but they're fairly close. I wouldn't say it's too far off, so I got pretty close with that. I'm using the same 50-ounce ball, and I was hoping that this 50 ounce will be enough, but I got like really into making the leg and on the first one, and I'm like, oh well, now I got to make the leg longer on the second one, because I was going to make up ankle because most of my socks are ankle. It's all good. It's nice to have a good pair of of a little bit longer socks. So they're coming along really nicely, and I will have to tap into my other 50-gram ball in order to finish the leg. And again, I'm very comfortable with that. What I decided to do with the heel, instead of doing what she called for in a pattern, which is a forethought heel, I'd never done one of those, and it reminded me a lot of the afterthought heel. But I'm assuming that you're just putting it in a different spot. Like, cause looking at the directions in here, it looks like you add the waist yarn the way that you're supposed to. Yep, you add the waist yarn and then so it is more like a forethought because you are planning where you're going to cut into the the tube in order to add the heel later on. Whereas the afterthought heel, from my understanding, it seems that you are adding the heel after you have successfully completed the entire sock. Whereas a forethought, you are just adding where you would like the heel to go later on. I don't know. Not much difference from my in reading or interpretation of them. I have done the afterthought heel on a pair of socks before, and it came out very nice. But I really like the shadow wrap heel. I don't know why. I really like the way that the German, it's almost like a German short roll, but I don't know, it's a little different. And maybe it's the way that Denise DeSantis explains it. It clicked really well. So my go-to hill for the last couple of socks I've made, not that I made that many, have been the shadow wrap hill. That's my preferred one currently. I did like the afterthought, so I do see myself doing that again. With my particular shadow wrap, I decided to use leftover pink mohair. I had this really bright electric mohair. Decided to use that for no reason whatsoever. The pattern doesn't call for it. I just saw it in my collection. I was like, huh, why don't I just use that? Because it's almost identical to the pink and the stripe. And I thought it would be a nice play on that. The first one came out really well. The second one, the heel's a little pointed, but my foot would fit in there and it will work itself out. I'm not too worried about it. But it's also going to be a really soft heel, and I'm really looking forward to it. The fabric came out much thicker than what I thought it would. I thought it was going to be thin and see-through and really transparent, but to be honest with you, it feels as thick as the sock. So I'm actually really glad with my decision for that. I decided to knit this pair of socks on a US 1, which is a 2 point, or US 0, which is a 2.0 millimeter needles. Uh, the reason why I chose to do this is that I wanted a tighter fit, and maybe it's a little too tight. 2.25 is really my preferred needle, and I need you to stick to that because 2.5 is too big. 2.0 is a little too tight, but I'm hoping that once I wet block it, that it will expand a little bit. The yarn I'm using for this, and again, if you've watched episodes, you heard about this. This is Geektastic. I purchased this yarn, Geektastic Fibers. I purchased this yarn for $40 apparently. Dang. Was it really 40? That's what the price tag says. Goodness gracious, I spent way too much money on yarn, which is another episode. But anywho, this is 75% superwash merino, 10%, 25% nylon. You get 437 yards, and the yarn is called Trapper Keepers and Pencils. It's fun. It's self-striping and it glows in the dark, so you can't beat that. And it is a fun yarn, and I'm looking forward to wearing this. It actually does glow in the dark. I saw that when I use my son has this like LED lights in his room, and it really, when I knit in there, it looks really cool. So this is close to being finished, and I know if I just spend some quality time on Saturday, like a 3 or 4 hour like marathon of a movie, I can finish it. It's just, yeah. So that's nearly finished. Another sweater that is, in my mind it's nearly finished, but in reality it's not. Because in my mind, just looking at it, it looks nearly done, but in reality it's not. And the reason why it's not is because of this side here. Now I could stop, go ahead and do my hem and all that good jazz, but if I were to do that, I'm going to have another situation of my sweater number 20 is 20, is it either 19, 20, 19, 20, 19? I don't know. It's one of those sweaters. So let me tell you about this one. I'm going to go ahead and pop open my Ravelry page because I'm a girl who's all about taking her notes. And the sweater that I just held up really quick, that was so rude of me because you're like, I want to know more, Rachel. The sweater I just held up is sweater number 15. This is by my favorite knitwear. Now, this pattern was gifted to me by one of my coworkers, and this is a pattern that allows for you to use 4.5 millimeter, which is a US 7, or and a 4 millimeter needle for your ribbing, which is a US 6. The gauge on this is 23 per 29 for every 4 inches. For 4.5, and for ribbing is 25 and 30 rows for every 4 inches. And you use about, for the size I'm doing, which is a large, which is size number 4, you're using about 200 grams of mohair held together with about 350 grams of some type of wool merino, which will give you like this DK worsted gauge. For me, I decided not to do another mohair because one, I didn't want to buy more yarn, even though I have no problem doing that. I just chose not to. And number two, I really wanted an all over white sweater. And because my Arctic Light was such an epic fill, I thought this one will be a better fit. And so far, so good. Now, originally, I went into this pattern with about 11 and a half of double Sunday yarn. So let me hold up my yarn. This is Double Sunday by Sanders Garn. I purchased this, about a sweater quantity of it, about it took in about 2 purchases in order to make the Arctic Light. I was going to make this into the Arctic Light. And again, in previous episode, I talked about that in 2024. We are not bringing that into 2025. So for 2025, for my all over cable white sweater, I am using this yarn that I've been purchasing primarily from Wool and Company. The original Sanders Garn yarn that I purchased that was in white, I purchased, let me keep saying purchase now, every word. I got it from a store called Another Yarn. That's not quite local to me, but I pretend like it is. It is a beautiful yarn store in Burlington, Massachusetts. They have a wide array of yarn from Europe, different parts of Europe, different parts of South America, all right there in the store. They even have local yarn that's hand dyed, as well as yarn that's been purchased from other parts of the country. So definitely one of those I really, really enjoy using and buying and whatnot. So that's where I originally got the Sanders Garn. But then I went to Wool and Company to buy more because I'm obsessed with Wool and Company. It's one of my favorite stores to buy from because they ship so quickly. So I had, going into this project, I had 11.5 skeins of yarn, and I thought that was going to be enough. It wasn't. It hasn't been. And I've already purchased 3 additional balls, and I still don't think I'm going to have enough. I would like to do at least 3 more cables, and I've noticed it takes about 2 cables rounds, now that I'm in a body, in order to do it. So I still got to do the sleeves and the collar. So if I'm smart, I would just buy another 3 skeins of yarn. Then I would have enough because I have 6 that I haven't touched, and I have 1 untouched in the bag. And I just grabbed 1 from over there. So now I have 2 in the bag that are untouched, and I still am working on the last one. The current ball I'm on right now, I think it will let me finish, do another 5 rounds with it, which I'm hoping it will. Because if it will, then it will definitely prove my theory that for every 2 full cable repeats, I can get 1 ball of yarn out of. So I do have some leftover Sanders Garn yarn, but as you can see, it's being held with some mohair that I was using when I originally was supposed to be doing the other pattern, the Arctic Light. Now I can pull it apart, and that would be the smart and responsible thing to do. But I promise you, it was not coming apart this easily. Maybe I wasn't in the right mental space to do it, because that definitely plays a role in how I interact with yarn. I don't know about y'all, but if I'm not in a good, let me be patient, let me be kind, I am not going to have a positive experience with the yarn. So that might have been the problem, Rachel. Might have been the problem. So anywho, that's the sweater number 15 by my favorite knitwear. Let me make sure I'm saying her name correctly. She does not have her name. She just has, my favorite things knitwear. So it looks like this pattern came out in 2022. So definitely like it. I was really appreciative of the coworker who gifted it to me. I printed it out, that's when I was still doing my hand notes and all that jazz. I don't really use printed patterns anymore, but I'm actually glad I do have that printed because it's made it more of an enjoyable knitting experience. So, in addition, I'm going to continue to unravel this as we chit chat. In addition to my sweater number 15, sweater number 15, I am also working on my Berlin scarf, which I'm not going to show you because there is nothing to show. I've been working on it, but that is the scarf that never ends. I'm not going to sing the song because it will get stuck in your head if you are a child of the 80s and 90s. But it's one of those where it's just like, oh, you are still going on and on and on. But hopefully, I will have that scarf finished by the end of next week. And then when I'm ready to film another episode, you will see it. Only thing I will say about that scarf is that I love that yarn so much. In fact, I cannot wait to talk to you in explicit detail about the latte cake yarn. But I digress. That is not the purpose of this episode. Purpose of this episode is to celebrate one of my crochet self patterns, which I can't even call a pattern because all it is a single crochet stitch. So is that a pattern? But I have so many coworkers who are having babies. And because they're having so many babies, I have been making so many baby blankets, and which brings me to acquisitions as well as a web. So one of my coworkers, he and his wife have been trying to have a baby. They finally got pregnant, and I showed him a couple of skeins of yarn. He was like, "Well, she doesn't want pink, pink," and I'm like, "I won't do pink, pink, but what do you want? Like, you can do this, you can do that." And so I showed him, and he liked this multicolor yarn that had a little pink and had a little green, had a little purple, had a little white. His wife liked it too. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. But then I already used that yarn for another baby's blanket, and I didn't want to make the exact same one. So I decided that I'm going to go through my collection as well as to Joann's, and I'm going to make my own version of that same yarn. So that yarn has the colors I'm showing you right now. So as you can see, there's a like a maroon, a pink, a light pink that looks almost white in certain light. And then there's this splash of green. So instead of using like a sagey green, it's more like minty. And I'm going to keep using it or crocheting with it until it turns a really dark green. And once it becomes dark green, I'm going to switch to this yarn. This is Barnett Blanket. So both yarns are Barnett Blanket, which is Yarn Inspirations. This is a super bulky yarn that calls for an 8 millimeter crochet hook, which is a US 11 or USL. I am using a US 12, which is a 9 millimeter hook. And I find that it's crocheting up just the gauge I wanted. I didn't want a really thick fabric. I wanted it to be a little loose and flimsy, as you can see. And that's exactly what it's doing. And so far, so good. I can't complain. I was going to go up to a 12 millimeter because I knew it would work up faster, but it was a little too loose. And I didn't want the baby to stick their fingers through it. The bottom of the pattern, I was initially going to do this one stitch, but then I changed my mind to a single crochet. So I decided to keep that because I did like the way it looked. It looks almost like I did that intentional, like it's a border. And so I'm like, yeah, of course I did. I really did. So that's coming along really nicely. And that should be finished by the end of this weekend because what I showed you was what I was able to do in 1 hour and 40 minutes. Crochet, as I said before, I do tend to do a little bit faster, especially when it's a baby's blanket, because those don't take long at all because you're not doing a full on, like it's almost like doing a lap gan. So very happy with the progress with that. So one other, this is gonna be a quick episode, y'all, I promise. One other object I have on my needles is getting my attention every Friday um, is my shift again. So last Friday, I finally sat down and I was watching a video of Andrea Amari, and I was like, let me pause for a second. Instead of just watching her, let me actually work on one of her patterns. So I am working on the shift again, and I made a little promise to myself that every Friday, for 30 minutes or so, I'm going to work on the shift again. And my hope is to have this finished by the end of the year. Like, this is my year-long project. You know how not everyone, but how some of the podcasters or knitwear designers have their year-long knit-alongs, and believe me, I was going to join all of them, but I decided instead of doing that, I'll have my own. And so this is my personal knit along where for the next year, I'm going to spend working on the shift again. And my hope is that by January 2026, I will have this garment finished. Cardigans sometimes take me a little bit longer because it's knitting back and forth. But what's unique about this particular pattern is that it's not your traditional cardigan where you're knitting back and forth. You're still knitting it around, and because you're going to steek. Now the pattern calls for 7 steek stitches, but I'm doing 11, only because I was afraid. I was just really afraid, to be honest with you. I thought if I had the 7, then I can ensure that I can that it won't ravel or come undone. And I know that the 7 would have been enough, but it just eases my pain. I will consider as I'm moving for past the cuff that maybe I will go ahead and add or reduce the number of steek stitches. And the only reason why I'm considering that is because I want to make sure I have enough yarn. And so, speaking of which, the pattern calls for spin cycle, and I had a whole bunch of leftover spin cycles, so that's what I'm using. But the main yarn I'm using is called it's by Armano, excuse me, and it's called Awa. So here I'm going to hold the tie just in case I didn't pronounce anything correctly. I'm going to give you a second to look. There you go. This is 55% baby alpaca, 26% merino wool, and 90% prima cotton, which will be perfect for a lovely early spring, late fall cardigan where it's not really cold enough for a full on jacket, but definitely warm enough for a cardigan. So this is it. This will make another nice addition to my closet, so I can continue to incorporate cardigans into my that. And for this yarn, this is sport weight, and for every 100 grams, you get 328 yards, which is 300 meters. And I really like it. I think it's a really, really great yarn. I've been having a really lovely experience with it. It took a lot for me just to put it down, and I do see myself spending more time working on this on Fridays. But it is my Friday night project, so when we wrap up, that's what I'm going to spend some quality time doing, and then I'm going to go back to my test knit and finish that. But other than that, those are all the projects. My hope is that the next time I film, you will see not one, not two, but hopefully 3 finished objects. The baby's blanket will most likely have to be photoshopped in because as soon as I'm done with that, I give it away with specific care instructions. Because I found that if I keep a baby's blanket in this house, my husband started getting ideas, and I'm not trying to have any more children. I'm good. So that is it in terms of what I'm working on. I have no future plans on casting on anything new other than the other than the throw over. I would like to cast that on when I don't know. I really want to successfully complete the cable 15, and I also want to make sure I complete I should have been winding this too. It's about to get all tangled. And I really also want to complete the socks that I have on my needles as well. And there's a couple of colorwork socks I would like to do. And I've never done colorwork socks where I've done colorwork sweaters. So as I mentioned, towards the end, like, those videos, like my winter plans, I, had some FOMO and I did like, here are my winter plans, folks. And I wouldn't say they're plans, but my goal for 2025 is to do more color work. I really enjoyed my color work experience from last year, and I just want to do it some more. And would like to get better at it. I found that I've improved significantly with doing my cables, and the reason why, because I did more of them. And because, let me show you the one cable sock that I have that I absolutely love. This is another sock pattern out of Summer Lee's sock project books. I'm not going to show you the bottom because I've been wearing these socks. Now, the problem is I haven't been wearing my knit socks, and I'm like, this is a problem. You need to be wearing your socks. And so I'm going to be wearing my socks more often. This is called the Seafarer Socks by Summer Lee. It's in the book, but you can also go into Ravelry now and buy the patterns individually now. This is the calls for fingering weight yarn, and I believe it was 2.25 needles that she actually requires you to do for the pattern. But she definitely encourages you to use the size needle that makes the gauge that you're trying to get out of the fabric. So all in all, love all the socks so far that I have made of hers. Not that I made that many. I've made 2, and I'm looking forward to casting on another pair. She has color work in her book. I also have the rhubarb socks too, and I'm trying to challenge myself to continue to knit lesser known designers as well. But I we'll see. We'll see what socks I end up making with that. What looks like what's happening, I'm going might make the fleece socks, which is a nice transition into color work, and then I can move into some of the more intricate patterns that I'm hoping to do. So by the end of the year, I will have my full on six colorwork socks because that's my hope for myself. I plan to make at least six colorwork socks. So we'll see how that goes. I do have some other acquisitions that I will talk about once they arrive in my video. And that is really about it. I just have to tell you about this one thing that happened last weekend. So, last weekend was my son's last Saturday before they went back to winter break. And they wanted to go to the movies with their dad. And my husband's like, is that okay if I take him to the movies? It's a late movie. I was like, I don't care. And then my bonus son was like, well, I'll go too. And I was like, wait a second. Are all of you going to be out of the house to go to the movies? They're like, yes, you should come. I was like, no, no, no. I can't. And I was still recovering from, I got a wicked bad cold. So definitely was still recovering from that. So they all go, they get their coats and their hats, etc., and they leave the house to go see the movie. I don't even know which movie they went to go see. I think it was Craven. And I went around the house and made sure all the lights were turned off except for one. I made myself this huge cup of tea. I lit candles and I sat and I made chocolate chip cookies for me. Now, usually when I'm baking chocolate chip cookies, I'm making it for the whole family so we can have. Obviously, I share them, but this time I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have first dibs on the chocolate chip cookies. Because usually they have first dibs. So I have first dibs on them. I sat there with my tea and my cookies, and I went my audiobook. Oh, it was nice. I don't even remember which audiobook I was listening to. I think it was. Oh, yes, I do. I was re-listening to Court of Roses and Thorns. Court of Roses and Thorns. The reason why that someone had made a comment about the book, and when I say someone, some complete stranger on Instagram, and I was like, I don't remember that happening. And I was like, maybe I'll re-listen to the books and see. And I saw that the book I wanted to listen to wasn't available, so I'm like, oh, I'll just download it again. So while I was waiting for the book to download, I finished another little cozy book that I was reading that I absolutely enjoy. So let me tell you about those two because both highly recommend. So let me bring it up. Here it is. Perfect. Very odd weekend. I was, like I said before, I was at home by myself with my cookies and my candle. And I was trying to listen to Games Untold by Jennifer Lynn. And I realized I already read the book. So I'm like, well, I don't want to listen to that anymore. And the other book I was waiting for, what was it called? The Barn, which is a book by Wright Thompson. It's an account about the murder of Emmett Till, and I was listening to that one, and it was very graphic. And I'm like, let me just go ahead and buy this book because so in addition to listening to it, I want to buy it. So I was listening to that, but I was like, that's not the vibe I'm going for tonight. So I'm gonna buy it, I'm gonna read it, and call it a day. So I paused on that one, and the other books I wanted to borrow from Libby, it wasn't there. So A Court of Thorns and Roses. I started listening to that, and I saw that another book I was waiting for to come available came on. I was like, maybe I'll listen to this first. It's called 500 Miles from You by Jenny Colgan. Such a good book. This woman writes here. Let me just show you. Am I showing it well? There you go. Such a good book. It was such a cozy list. Like, I was listening to that, plus with the tea and the cookies. I mean, they were gone for about almost 4 hours. So that was 4 hours of uninterrupted audiobook and just chilling by myself and knitting. Man alive, it was probably one of my favorite Saturday nights I had with myself in a long time. So thoroughly enjoyed it. Highly recommend Jenny Colgan, great author, very aware of like the current times. So her writing is like on point. I just the characters that she had in this book, 500 miles from you. I wanted to be a part of the story, and so much. In fact, that is definitely a book or a book that I see myself not only purchasing the physical copy, but also the audiobook. So that way, whenever I'm in that cozy mood, I would listen to it again. There's very few audiobooks that I go out of my way to not only purchase, but also reread over and over again. And that was definitely it. It's just it was really well done. So if you're busy or not busy, I should say, and you have some time for yourself and you want a nice light read that has a little spice, not too much to it, I highly recommend that. And Court of Thrones doesn't have as much spice as I remember, or maybe my spice meter has changed since reading it. Because I remember the first time I was like, oh my gosh, this is raw. But after reading some of the other stuff I've been listening to and reading, I'm like, oh, maybe not. But anyway, that's all that's new happening. That's it. Yeah, all that's new that's happening. I got some really great news about the book. We are full print. People are going to be able to fully purchase the book. The purchase goes on sale on January 31st. So I'm really excited about that. That their general public will be able to go from beyond pre-ordering, but actually physically ordering my textbooks. So I'm like, yay. My publisher actually sent me a framed photo of the book cover, which was really sweet for holidays. So that was a really incredible moment for me. The African Meeting House just reached out to me this week to confirm that they will be hosting the AP AFAM Expo. So that just brought such great joy for me because I needed that little pick me up because I am struggling with writing comprehensive lessons for my AP US government politics class because we're in a transitional period right now here in the United States, and so and it's hard to teach that content when some things that are happening in the news that kind of goes against what is literally written in the Constitution. So I am hoping that I will get over this writer's block that I am suffering from so that way I can successfully teach my students so that way they can understand about the systems of governing society according to the United States. And so hopefully that will work out because the struggle is real right now. And other than that, nothing else is going on. Had a really great day at work. My students are phenomenal as always. I'm so sad that my semester with them is coming to an end because I'm going to miss them so much. I really like these group of kids that I have this semester. I got so lucky with that, and I'm like lucky. So there's like no incentive whatsoever to leave the classroom. I'm like, why would I ever leave? These people are amazing. But so yeah, it was just a good day. Had a really good day at work. Had a really great week as well, quick week, and had a really amazing previous weekend. So just wanted to share that positive energy with you. And I hope that your weekend is as relaxing and joyful and fills your spirit up with everything that you need. I want to say thank you to our newer subscribers to the channel. It's a small channel, so welcome to the small universe of Knitting Rambles. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. I'm hoping as the channel grows that I will do more in order to bring people to the table. So one thing that can help is your comments. In the comments, just to talk about what you're currently knitting on, what you were most excited to knit or crochet for 2025, or what yarn you're most excited to work with for 2025 as well, because there are definitely some yarns I'm super excited to work for this year that's coming to my collection and hopefully by the end of the month, and I can't wait to share that all with you. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Happy Friday.